Let there be light, and there was light. Words of the said God, Mother Eve. Of course, we are talking scriptural here. And if you are joining us for the first time, this is where we talk about numerology and we look at scripture verses from the King James Holy Bible, specifically King James Holy Bible, because as I continue to say, I believe it's a book of mathematical construct. I believe it was really designed that way. So we have layers of stories in the scriptures, and as I continue to say, it's like a cake. Well, depending on what flavors you like, which it seemed to contain all kinds of flavors anyway. So there we are delving in some flavors that we may not have previously been acquainted with, but we are delving into numerology. That's the flavor. Yes, and I talk about flavor because somehow the revelations that have been transpired seem to be quite delicious. So I speak in the terms of food when we are talking scriptures here, but then that's just part of my makeup. And of course, that's part of Mother Eve's makeup. So if you're new to this channel, I ought to introduce you to Mother Eve. Of course, Mother Eve is the said God and the water spoken of in Genesis. So there we are. Of course, you will notice the sacrifice template, but the sacrifice template derived from the story of Jesus Christ, of course, the Last Supper, and getting ready to be crucified for the sins of mankind. This is what we have been taught. We know, as I've just mentioned, there are layers to the stories, and we will see, and we have seen, that there are deeper significance. When I say deeper significance, direct stories or that which is relevant to us. Of course, it would seem that Christ's death is relevant to us, because that was the reason that we are told that Christ died. Of course, we see that through the numbers that they play out in our lives, or the number 13, for instance, which is a number that is very prominent in the story of Christ. The 12 disciples and Christ at the table would be 13. And we know that the number 13, of course, has been a number that seemed to be to have been taught to be fearful of, and has a lot of meanings to it, some that we have not taken time to work out, and so we have digested the fearful factors of those meanings. So everything that we have discovered so far seem to present themselves in negative and positive, depending on which area, which point of the matter that we are focusing on. Speaking of matter, it would seem like we are talking about like water and matter, because they're really one and the same. So the waters, of course, equal 23. And if I do the word matter, I believe also equals 23. Now, I bring this into an example as to say that they're really one and the same. It may not seem like that, that water and matter is the same, but according to Mother Eve, that female, for instance, 100% water. So that would mean that which we consider as matter is also water. And we also understand, just to back this up by scientific arguments, that everything has a form of life in it. To whatever degree it is that we may consider, but it has life. Everything is life form. Okay, the rock, the stone, everything has life in it. Now, when we speak of everything, we are talking about Mother Eve. We are talking about the source. We are talking about the mother of all living. So this is what Adam named his wife, the mother of all living. Now, that is not to say that Adam's wife, Eve, was the first Eve. But of course, he was probably acknowledging the essence of her source, and of course, the source of life, the um, attributes of a mother, of life itself, as I well, we say life which is also 23 when we speak of numerical values. So basically, we are talking about Mother Eve in all these factors. But to bring this to a better or clearer understanding, we look at the number 5 here as the middle number of or not middle number, and it's in line with the middle letter, which is of 9 letters. So when we speak of numerology, we speak of number 1 to 9, and the word sacrifice is 1 to 9. And of course, with the number 5, we see that there is the I above it. So what we have also discovered here on the Scrammy Queen channel is that everything that we have been doing so far is intuitively guided, and with that intuition also teaches us that perhaps the lessons or the deepest lessons we are meant to be learning is really from an intuitive source. This is how Mother Eve conveys her messages to us. And this is here we have the I here, which is pivotal to whatever we do. So we are talking about, we are always making references to I or me as which also equals 9 as in numerical value. So we can see that 5, of course, is in the middle of the number 9, and of course 9 plus 5 is also 14, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So basically we can see here with the word new in the middle is perhaps really telling us, and I think that's perhaps I shouldn't have the word perhaps in this sentence, that it's really telling us it's the awareness of our position or our state with Mother Eve, or our understanding of who we are in the realm of life. Here we are talking about this position. This is where we are new. And of course, let us just call upon waters. You may not see this properly here, and revelation, because I keep handling this table, but we have water and revelation. Revelation, of course, 2 is equals 13, and 1 plus 3, 13 or 31, but that would be 4. And so 4 gives us that foundation. And of course, again, if we had to add 4 plus 5, as in the middle, that would give us 9. Well, basically, I mentioned those numbers here. It's really to highlight how Mother Eve has been directing us in that flow of understanding who we are, in the sense of where we come from, and our purpose, and whatever it is that we are meant to be doing, thinking, learning. It's really going back to Mother Eve to help us do this. I thought I would just perhaps draw this to our attention here. When we speak of number 5 as well, we speak of the mouth right here. Now, you may detect from my voice as well that I'm really trying to keep my my voice a little bit low because I'm still recovering, but I just felt that I needed to just have this presence just to keep us abreast and fresh with the in our thoughts and our minds, having the essence of Mother Eve with us. So we have spoken about 14 gods that we have discovered in Genesis of chapter 1 and 2. So 9 gods in chapter 1 and 5 gods in chapter 2. We have also done the numerical value of the gods, which is on this board. We can see that we have created, which is 2, basically it's 11, which is the first master number, and we have moved and said and so on. We have also discovered other patterns. I am just bringing this to the awareness that we have gone through this, but I'm believing that we may have to keep making references to this to understand the full significance and the patterns of whatever revelation Mother Eve is really conveying to us, because there are patterns here. So I have pointed out, and when we have the written format of the numbers, for instance, number 2, TWO, it really equals 13. Now that tells me that perhaps that was the energy that Christ was connecting with when he was recruiting his disciples. They were brothers or they were friends, and often they were recruited in twos. So that's an energy. Now perhaps that is really saying to us, when we are doing something that we are planting, for instance, that which I have mentioned before with the God of planting. The God of planting actually planting or planted, to be more precise, equals 9. So the God of planting is really a God that we call upon when we are, say, doing something like Christ did, recruiting his disciples. So, of course, the called God is the first God that we are actually directing our attention on. So we are using the called God in this sense. We could say we are using our voice to call on the God, because the gods are functions of our being or our makeup. So the called God is number 1. This is why so before I continue, so Christ was calling on the disciples. So this is, here we see the called God has a numerical value of 1, and this is really conveying the magnitude, or not just the magnitude, but it's perhaps really saying this is the one thing we need to be mindful of, the one God, or the first God that we need to be mindful of, or the first God that we are connecting with when we are making a request, or when we are planting, or when we are about to do something. So by Jesus Christ calling on the disciples in twos, he was actually using the vibration of 13, because that was really like saying the first thing. It was his big picture. The big picture was to have 13 at the table, because we are seeing that would seem to be the architectural work. So the picture was 13, and it would seem that the beginning and the end was really one and the same. So to think that Christ was just calling on 2 disciples, and there was not a connection with the 2, and at the table, it would not be correct in looking at it this way. What we see is that everything that we do, we are connecting with a certain vibration that breeds after its kind, so to speak. So when we even read in the scriptures, and Abraham begat Jacob and so on, perhaps there might be something to show us that the first son had a vibration that would connect with the grand finale of Abraham's lifetime or lifespan, or something to that effect. So basically there is a cycle This is why we see that whatever point we start the cycle on, that's where we end. This is what the mouth is about. This is what, it's a circle, and it encapsulates whatever it is. Everything is a circle, and that circle has to have a beginning and an end, and they are really one and the same. Where one begins, the other ends. And that's what Mother Eve is about. That's why Mother Eve is the mother of all living. So far now, I want to be able to examine the gods again, one at a time, and really understanding their attributes and seeing how they have served us and how they can continue to, because now is a time of planting, where Mother Eve says, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. So this is a process of planting over the next 7 years that we are seeing here. This is coinciding with Uranus entering into the house, or the second zodiac sign, which is Taurus, which is an earth sign. And Taurus, of course, is about the earth. This is about planting. This is about foundation. Now we see, when we speak of foundation, we are talking about creation, because foundation equals two as well as the word created. Okay. So, and this is where we plant, as I say. So when, for instance, you are planting corn, or you are planting seed trees, which is what we were given. We were given seeds that had fruit, that bears fruit and has its seed in it after its kind. This is what scripturally we were given for food, or we were given to have dominion, to replenish, to subdue, to multiply, and to be fruitful, and all those things that we were given, which were 5 gifts. And these were 5 gifts, if you like. They were like 5 commands, but they were also gifts. And that coincides with the number 5, which is Mother Eve. Number 5, which is waters. Number 5, which is lock, which is anchor, and which is Christ, the Christ spirit. Number 5, which is the Kundalini, or the pyramid. Now we can see the pyramid really is a nice symbol too, to really show us the magnitude of the foundation, and that which is the peak that goes into the heavens. That's what our lives are about. So going by the planting process here, and the gods that we call on. So for instance, what we have been doing, we have been talking about, or we had learned about the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit now, or the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, like some would say. But we have seemed to forgotten the awareness or inclusion of the divine feminine that births life. The waters, as was spoken of in Genesis of chapter 1, verse 2. This is where we are talking about the number 2 again, where forgive me with my wording on this, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep, and there is the waters. There is the word waters, but I need to be practicing this verse more often so I can get this. So we know that the waters are the reflections, or it is reflective, and Mother Eve is reflective of all life forms. So that's why it is important that we remember to include, or to be aware of the life force, that which we are. It seems a little bit crazy that we have been taught we are 70% and 80% water, and water is life, but we do not, or have not until now, acknowledge Mother Eve as the waters that was spoken of in Genesis. And to acknowledge Mother Eve as the waters is the source that we all need to return to, we need to connect to and anchor on for the answers that we need in life. Right now, when we learn about flow, we learn about when we're in flow, it's like a wave, or we learn about the current of the waves, we learn about vibrations, and all this is really Mother Eve. And the story of creation in Genesis of chapter 1 really teaches us that. We see that in the 17th verse, for instance, and God said, so we know there was a number 8 that was taking place there, which equals God, because God is also number 17, 1 plus 7. And that in itself tells us that 1 really equals 7. That's where God was really showing us the concise attribute of the numerical factor of vibration, that which God is. And so when we add this together, that equals 8. So it's really saying God set. So there's the set God right there in that verse. We heard about when God said, and let the waters bring forth life after its kind, or creatures abundantly, that which have life in it. So we know that life, that is telling us that the life came from the waters, which is Mother Eve. So basically, Mother Eve has even informed us. And as we say, a lot of those things are done intuitively, which we have discovered through the numbers. For the word, for instance, the word darkness, for instance, equals 10. And 10 equals, it's also for heaven, it's also for hell, it's also for spirit, which moved upon the face of the deep. So there we are talking about the water, the deep would seem to be like the womb. This is where the baby is in the womb. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. And you could just imagine a hand moving over the life force that is in the deep. So, or we could say the hand moving over the belly, because there's life in there. Once there is life in there, you could see the hand is rubbing the belly and so on. I'm just giving this as an analogy of understanding what the darkness is. That's where the life form comes from. Going back to planting, where like Christ was planting his disciples in twos, and we see that happened when Noah too was taking the animals and people in the ark by twos, and of course there was also 7. I have drawn this before as well, because 7 also equals 2. When we do the numerical value for the word 7, it equals 20, and in numerical value we say that's 2. So 20 we could say is really planting. We see that coincides with what Christ was doing when he was recruiting his disciples in twos. And this 2, as I say, is 13. But that was planting. Now we could say, what has 13 got to do with 2? Of course, not only that, it coincides with the written form here, but it also coincides with the sacrifice timetable or template. Sorry. So here we have, under the sacrifice template, the word sacrifice, we could see there's number 2. There's the B that happens right there. That's what the B is about. B equals is really the 13 that we talk about. If we were to talk about, let's just do this. Okay, let's use another board. So we speak of B and 13. So if we wrote the numerical value for the word B right here, would be 2 plus 5 equals 7. My brain goes ahead of me. Okay, and so we have said when we write the word 7, for instance, we have, which has Mother Eve in the middle of it, again is really telling us that Mother Eve has made her presence known right there. Let's get a pen that writes. So this is 1, 5, 4, 5, 5. Adding this together, this is 20. So we have 20 here, and that is the foundation. So basically, 2 that we have been talking about here is like planting 2 grain of corns in the hole, and that grows, because that's how, because I grew up on the plantation and I know about planting peas and beans and corn. We would put 2 seeds in the ground. So this is what we are talking about here with the understanding the essence of the numbers. So we can say, for instance, when we are connecting on 2, we are also connecting on 13 like Christ did. What is important for us to understand is that we are conscious, we become conscious of our actions and the vibrations that we are connecting with. This is why Emmett Fox, in my understanding, says, nothing comes into your consciousness unless it finds something like itself on which to attach itself to. So when we become conscious of that, we are actually attaching the cycle, the meaning of the cycle, the vibration of what we are meant to be doing. Now there's another thing that comes to mind. I have done this before, but I am getting the feeling that I need to also do the numerical value for the word 13, which we have done, THIR 13, THIRTEEN. So this is 5552998. So let's add this up. So this is 10, this would be 30, and 40, 45. So 45 is 9. Now this is to show the meaning of the connection, or the importance of the connection of what we are meant to be conscious of when we are planting. So I spoke about 13. I showed, I need to show you the meaning of the 2 and the letter B, which I have showed how B became, or B, the word B has given us the 2, but let's also show you how B is also 13 in symbol. So basically, like I say, when Christ had his disciples at the table and he said, whenever you eat of or break of the bread and drink of the wine, so the bread is his body, the wine is the blood. And so this is something that really tapped into the core of the disciples, in the very core of their life, the life source. And Christ connected on that, and with the agreements that they would have on that, it would be that which we call an equal sign. So they would have to have a bond. This is what we call the 2 equal sign would be here. This would be forming that B. This is what we are talking about, the bond. And this is why Christ knew about the bond of friendship that he had with his disciples. This is the bond of brotherhood. Okay, so we can see how the symbol under the sacrifice template also shows the symbol of number 2 that Christ had connected with on to be number 13. So if they were not connected, then they would be that 13 here, but the essence of agreement would have a bond on here. This is where the letters now have great significance for us, and it's important that we understand their vibration right here. Okay, so 13, back to 13, we are talking about 13. The word 13 also gives us 9. But when we do the numerical value for the word 9, for instance, or in fact for, let's say, 2, I'm just trying to get this to show you how 2 can also be 9. So let's just do that, because the 11, for instance, 11 when added together would also give us 1 plus 1 would be 2. So we would see how we also have 2 would be 13 here again. Okay, the other thing is number 9 would give us 6. I know 9 would give us 6, and 6 would also give us 7. So here we are, which is 5955. Adding this together would be 24. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Again, if we do the numerical value for the word 6, because this is what we need to be mindful of. All these numbers that we use as symbols for the meanings, we will really have in the word form in the scriptures that gives us the full vibration. So this is how the proper way for us to get the numerical vibration of the word is really to have it transformed in this way, so we can get the essence of the message that is being conveyed. For instance, or just to emphasize the point, right now we understand why the number 9 was so prevalent in the story of Christ. We hear about the 9th hour, or the 9, there were so many 9s, but here. But, and we also know about the 9 virtues. We know now we have learned about the 9 gods. So Christ was really connecting right here with the 9 gods. Having 13 at the table, that was a representation of the 9 gods in Genesis of chapter 1. So that is very crucial for us to understand. Now, even with the 5 gods that we have also discovered in Genesis of chapter 2, they actually tallied or paired up or partnered with the first 9 gods of Genesis of chapter 1. So basically, we have the 9 gods with us. And as I continue to say, I believe that the 9 circles on our bodies, the external circles on our bodies, are logos of those gods. Beginning with the mouth, we have the mouth, for instance, which has the called God works through there as well. But we have the made God, the ended God, and the moved God. So we have these as the 5 vibration, but the gods, as I say, they partnered with one another. So here we have this 13, which is crucial. So we have been taught to be fearful of the number 13, not understanding the full significance of it. And we also learned that a lot of rituals are conducted with number 13. When we hear of Black or Friday the 13th, again, Friday is considered the 5th day of the week, and then we say have the 13. So we are talking about number 5 as in the middle of the sacrifice template. There is a lot going on. Now number 5, of course, we can see the magnitude of number 5 here on the mouth, which we have eat, the things we can do with the mouth. We can eat, we can cough, yawn, sing, kiss, smile, speak, burp, bite, blow, suck, breathe, taste, chew, drink, and sneeze. So all these things we can do with the mouth. So we can see the magnitude of number 5, which mouth equals mouth equals 5, which is Mother Eve here, which is the mouth that speaks life. This is what we are told, that you can speak and you can curse with the tongue. Of course, the tongue constitute part of the mouth. Okay, so here we have number 13. As I say, I feel that it's crucial for us to bear in mind that 13 is really also on same vibration as number 2. So that is a great insight, meaning that everything has two sides to it. Your hand may be considered single, but it has two sides to it. You have two sides to, or two ends to twine, or there's a lovely butterfly around. I think you can, it's just passed through and it's just lovely. So we have these twos. It'd be interesting to see if there are two butterflies now. But however, we are welcoming whatever it is, because it's a life form, and I think it's a great symbol right now. So basically, we are learning about how to connect on the vibration, the numerical vibrations of those things that we have been taught in the scriptures. So, of course, speaking of 2, it was evident here in the cycle of creation that the word created equals 2. But now, Mother Eve has been telling us that we are moving on to this other cycle. Excuse me. We are on this new cycle where we are now to call on the called God first. Excuse me. The called God. I'm seeing if I've got some water here. Okay, excuse me. And so we'll call on the called God, which is 1. But of course, when we do the numerical value for the word 1, just to wrap all this up, we will see the magnitude. So this is 1, 6, 5, 5. And if we do the numerical value here, this gives us 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. Of course, 7 takes us back to number 2, as we have seen. So 1 right here is giving us the magnitude that it encapsulates. It's really saying that 1 encapsulates the whole in this sense. So 1 equals 7. 7, of course, has showed us, the word 7 has showed us that it's got 20. It equals 20, which is 2. So we can see the seed of to call on something, or using the God of calling to call. We are also connecting on that vibration of 20 as well. I believe that this is really wonderful. So just to wrap this up here, this presentation, we are seeing the magnitude of, for instance, the magnitude or the power of the God of the mouth, which of course I consider the said God to be in control of the mouth. The mouth encapsulates everything. The mouth it consists of the tongue. It's that which we taste with, we bite with, we sneeze, we kiss with. That's why Christ also did speak about the disciple, or the one who kisses him. We hear about the kiss of betrayal with Judas and Christ. But here we see the word kiss, for instance, equals 13. This is what we are talking about. So there was Christ. He had chose the disciples in twos, and there were 13 of them at the table. So of all these numbers that we could do, we could choose here of all these functions of the mouth. none of these were really spoken of as much as or as profound as the one as the fifth one here. And this is intuitively done. This was not saying I'm going to have kiss on the number 5. This is, I was just going in flow here. But that's how the spirit works, to show us the magnitudes. This is Mother Eve right here. This is why it said that the number 5 is the number of abundance and number of change. So there we have 4. So kiss equals 13, and 13 is 4. 4 is the foundation. You have seen I've just worked around the number 4 as well. 4 actually is also, I probably didn't do 4 in that sense. I did number 6, but 4 equals 6, and we have seen how 6 in the word form also equals 7, which I did a minute ago. We have seen how Christ chose his disciples in twos, and 2, of course, the word TWO is 13. I'm not going to go over this again, but we also see how 13 comes under the 2 column in the sacrifice template, which is, so the sacrifice template, if you remember the B, the letter B equals, if we did BE, that equals 7. 7 is also 2. And if we did like in the beehive, that would equal 12. 12 is 3. And when we do the numerical value for the word 3, here actually equals 11. 11 takes us back to 2. So we can add this up. This is 10. This is 19. This is 29 altogether. 2 plus 9 is 11. So we can see right here that the power of 2, and this is giving us a great insight. We have seen the power of 2. We have seen the power of 2 actually takes us to the God of planting, which is the planted God. Let's see. When we use planted, for instance, right here equals 9. And we can see 9 also equals 6, which is 6 days of creation right here. So basically, when we use 1 here, you could look at yourself as 1, but we are the whole of 7. 7 is 20. 20 is planting. The word planted actually equals 9. 9 is totality. 9 is both. It is beginning and it is end. Why is it end as well? Because there is a beginning right after the end, a beginning of a new cycle. The word beginning equals 9. So I believe that I have given you quite a bit here to understand, first to understand the vibrations that we have been taught about, this hierarchical order that has been going on, that we fight over. We have been fighting over who's 2 and who's number 3, not realizing that number 3 has a strong correlation with number 2, as I have just pointed out, that there is 11. It comes to 11. 1 plus 1 is 2. This is why we speak of the Trinity as well. They have not told us how this really works. They just have been telling us to create division, but everything is interrelated. And when we understand the interrelatedness of this numerical construct, we will see that life is really truly a beautiful thing, and we do not necessarily have to be fighting about who's first and who is second. Thank you. In fact, join me again when I'll be talking on my next one. Of course, I do want to explore the gods, but I also want to show how the first and the last is really one and the same, or there is not that discrepancy as we thought, or how we have been taught, because they have put certain things in place to show more of a division instead of an inclusion or acknowledgement of oneness. Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you like this presentation, please share and give us a like, and of course leave your comments. Thank you. Let there be light, and there was light.